Donald Trump's news conference in Dubuque, Iowa started. That's Sam Clovis. He was a supporter of Rick Perry, the Republican presidential candidate, but now has just announced he's switched. He's a Donald Trump supporter. He's answering questions on why he decided to make that decision. Donald Trump is about to answer reporters' questions as well. Let's listen in.
And I felt it was the honorable thing to do for Governor Perry. I think the world of him is to step aside so I wouldn't have to be part of the calculus of figuring out how to get me back on board and those kind of things. And as such, I had an opportunity to look at other situations, and this is a situation that presented itself, and I'm very happy and very proud to be here.
Mr. Trump has a question about immigration. Your immigration plan.
Okay, who's next? Yeah, please.
Mr. Trump, I have a question.
Excuse me, sit down. You weren't called. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Go ahead.
I have the right to ask the question.
No, you don't. You haven't been called.
I have the right to ask the question.
Go back to Univision.
This is the question.
Go ahead.
You cannot deport 11 million.
Go ahead.
You cannot deport 11 million people. You cannot build a 1900
Go ahead.
wall. You cannot deny citizenship to children in this
Sit down, please.
Those ideas.
You weren't called.
I'm a reporter and don't touch me, sir. Don't touch me.
Go.
You cannot touch me. I have the right to ask a question. I have the right to ask a question.
Yes, go ahead.
That's Jorge Ramos
Hi,
of
Chip,
Univision.
yes.
He's being escorted out of the room. He was asking a question, and Donald Trump says
No, I
he
wouldn't
didn't
do
call
that.
on him. That's why he
should be
is being removed. Jorge Ramos refused to back down. Let's listen in.
Because I thought her questioning and her attitude was totally inappropriate. So it just, well, if you look, all you have to do is look on the internet today, and you'll see who people favor in that one. But I wouldn't. It's a very small element in my life, Megyn Kelly. I don't care about Megyn Kelly, but no, I would not apologize. She should probably apologize to me, but I just don't care. Yes, Katie, go ahead.
You're going to South Carolina on Thursday.
Yes.
Virginia and North Carolina are all thinking about mandating a pledge to have the nominee on the ballot support the eventual nominee.
Right.
Will you sign that pledge?
Well, I just heard about it today, and we're looking at it. We certainly have plenty of time because that doesn't come due for a long period of time. But we certainly have September 30th. Yeah, we certainly have a long period of time to think about it. So we're thinking about it. And look, and I say it to everybody, we're leading every poll. We're leading every state from Iowa to New Hampshire to South Carolina to North Carolina. Polls have come in from virtually every place, and we're leading every place. We're doing incredibly nationally. The one poll came out today at 40%. It was over 40%. So my whole desire is just fairness, and I want to run as the Republican nominee. I want to win. I think we will win. We have tremendous spirit in this party. I've been contacted by so many people that haven't voted for years. They haven't voted for years. They love the Republican Party, but they haven't wanted to vote. And they're going to be out there, and they're energized. We're going to win. And so I don't think it's going to matter because I think I'm going to get the nomination, and I think we're going to go on to win, and we're going to make America great again. So that's all that matters to me. Well, I didn't say that, but I will certainly consider it, and we have a lot of time to worry about it.
Mr. Trump,
Yes.
You're running for president, and one of our country's top journalists, the main anchor of Univision, was just escorted out of your news conference. Do you think you handled that situation correctly?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know really much about him. I don't believe I've ever met him, except he started screaming, and I didn't escort him out. You'll have to talk to security, whoever security has escorted him out. But certainly he was not chosen. I chose you. I chose other people to answer me where you're asking me questions. He just stands up and starts screaming. So, you know, maybe he's at fault also. But I don't consider that. I mean, somebody walked him out. I don't even know where he is. I don't mind if he comes back, frankly. Yes.
You appeared at an event for a super PAC supporting you. You're holding your own campaign fundraiser later this week. You said you won't take campaign donations. You fund your own campaign. Is this a sign?
No, I'm not. I've done some meet and greets, but I don't care if anybody, you know, we have a small group where people, I guess it's over here, where people can send in. One woman sent in $7.30 some odd cents and wrote a beautiful letter, and people are sending in $10 and $20. And I like that kind. It's not a lot of money ultimately, but I'm not doing anything about raising money. I don't care about raising money. I mean, part of my thing is that, frankly, I'm not controlled by anybody. These other people are raising hundreds of millions of dollars. I could do that very easily. I don't want to do that. It's not necessary for me to do that. The one up in New Hampshire is just a very small ticket item. And by the way, they can come in free. They can do whatever they want. And for me, it's just a meet and greet. It's going to take place in New Hampshire and I think in Massachusetts. And it's just a very small situation. And I don't consider it a fundraiser. In fact, people don't have to even pay. They're just people that have been supporting me from the beginning. They're terrific people. They want to see good things happen for our country. So I could do fundraisers, raise millions and millions of dollars. And as you know, I haven't done that, nor do I want to do that. Okay? But I do meet and greets. I mean, I have to meet people, and that's part of what I'm doing. And I'll be in New Hampshire. I'll be in Massachusetts. I'll be in South Carolina. I'll be in Dallas in a couple of weeks. We're going to be all over. Okay? Yes.
President Obama has taken some tough questions from Jorge Ramos. Is there a reason why you won't?
Because he was out of order. I would take his question in 2 seconds, but he stood up and started screaming.
Would you let him back in now?
I told you already. If he wanted to come back in, I'd love to have him come. But you can't just stand up and scream. I was saying to somebody else, is that correct? I was saying, yes. And this guy stands up and starts screaming. He's obviously a very emotional person. Okay, so I have no problem with it. I don't know him. I have no idea, but I would certainly love to have questions from him. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Wanted to ask you, Secretary Clinton was here 2 weeks ago, introduced her college affordability plan. Curious what you have to say to supporters of yours.
Her college what?
Her college affordability plan.
Yes.
I believe she called it the new college plan. Curious what you would say.
We're coming out with a plan in about 4 weeks, and I think it's going to make people very, very happy. We have so many people and going all over the country. I've been asked so many times by students, what are we going to do? And you know, the ultimate answer is create jobs, because the biggest problem is they have college debt. They have debt all over the place, right up to their neck, and they come out and they can't get a job in this country. Whether it's China or Japan or Mexico, they're all taking our jobs. And we need jobs in our country. It's enough with what we're doing with foreign trade. So I think that's one of the reasons we're leading by so much in the polls, because people know that I'm going to make good trade deals. It's not going to be this horrible situation where we get nothing. You know, if you think about China, they took our jobs, they took our money, they took our base, they took our manufacturing, and we owe them $1.4 trillion. How do you figure that? It's like a magic act. We owe them $1.4 trillion right now. We owe Japan $1.4 trillion, same amount, 2 countries. And they sell cars to us by the millions. And we owe them money. How do you figure that? So we're going to turn that around. Yes.
Experts have said that this campaign, when all is said and done, should cost about $1 billion for any candidate. You have a lot of money, but ultimately just $300 million in liquid assets. At some point,
Well, at some,
how will you go about doing
well, you saw my income is almost $500 million a year. If I want to, I can do that. At some point, the Republican Party, once you get the nomination, is going to kick in, and a lot of money will come into the campaign, I would say.
Will you be involved into those interests?
I don't think so. I can tell you right now. In fact, I've told people I turned down, and I sort of made that. I think I told you this. Last week, the week before last, a lobbyist, a person, very good person, came to me, offered $5 million. Please, I want to give you $5 million for the campaign. I said, I have no interest in taking it. In fact, it's the first time I think he's ever been turned down. He told me, I think it's the first time he's ever been turned down. Because I know this person, good person, smart, tough. He'll be coming to me, and he'll be saying in 2 years, in 1 year, in 4 years, he'll be representing a country, maybe a company, or maybe a person. I'm not doing anything for him. So I said, I don't want to embarrass you by taking your money and then saying I'm not going to see you. I'm working for one thing, for the people, and we're going to make the country strong and rich and great. And I hate to say rich, but we're a poor nation. We owe now $19 trillion. It's actually much more than that. But it's $19 trillion. We're going to get things back in shape. This country is going to be so strong and so great, and you're going to be so proud of it. So when he offered $5 million, I know that he's going to be coming, and it's going to be adverse to the interests of the people of this country. So I didn't take his money. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Trump, about Governor Bush and immigration. Yesterday he was down by the border in Texas. He says that your immigration plan is unrealistic, that it would cost too much money, that it's not conservative, and he suggests that you read about immigration policy. And I'm curious when you
I watched him, by the way, and he had a very small crowd. He had very little enthusiasm. He's a very low-energy person. You need a lot of energy to get this country turned around, including immigration. And the word immigration and illegal immigration, you wouldn't even be asking this question if it weren't for me. Because when I came out and when I announced, I'm the one that started this whole thing. And I took a lot of flack the first 2 weeks, and now all of a sudden everyone's apologizing to me. I mean, people in this room are apologizing to me because I brought something up that's very, very serious. I brought up the crime. I brought up all of the things that have happened since, including Kate, who's this wonderful person from San Francisco with an incredible family who I got to know a little bit, and Jamil, who was gunned down by an illegal immigrant, and so many others. The other day in California, a 66-year-old veteran, okay, 66-year-old veteran was raped, sodomized, beaten, and killed by an illegal immigrant. And that's a few of the many. It's a big problem. So you ask the question, Jeb Bush doesn't have a clue, doesn't even have a clue. And if I weren't in this campaign, Jeb Bush would not be talking about illegal immigration. If you remember, he said they come as an act of love, okay? Tell that to the families, and there are many, many, many families who lost a loved one. Act of love, okay? There's no act of love. It's tough stuff, it's mean stuff, and it's going to be taken care of. You know, a lot of the gangs that you see in Baltimore and in St. Louis and Ferguson and Chicago, do you know they're illegal immigrants? They're here illegally. And they're rough dudes, rough people. They're going to be gone so fast if I win that your head will spin. They're going to be gone so fast, okay? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Healthcare question.
Right.
Where do you stand on funding for Alzheimer's right now? You know it's the sixth leading cause of
Right,
death.
sure. I'm very strong toward funding for Alzheimer's and helping. It's a terrible situation, and they haven't made much progress, unfortunately, but I'm very, very strong in trying to find an answer for Alzheimer's. Big problem. Yes, sir.
David Osborne from the Independent of London. Just a couple of things on foreign policy, Mr. Trump. You said you listen to experts and journals on TV.
No. I didn't say. I said TV. I said newspapers. I read the Wall Street Journal. I read the New York Times. I read many, many newspapers. I read many magazines. I even read especially Time magazine this particular week. You know why? Because I'm on the cover. That's why I read it. But I read a lot about that. I read, and I have people that I like and people that I respect, and it's a great place. You get a cross-section of everybody because you see people that you'd really never have the opportunity to see or meet, and then from there you go and decide what you want to do. But go ahead.
Are you assembling, though? Do you have a group of
I do.
circle of people in New York?
I do. They'll be announced over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And my second question is, do you have any plans to travel overseas to London, Berlin, anywhere, to, as it were...
That would be possible. But to be honest with you, this country is in such trouble. Our infrastructure is crumbling. Our roads, our bridges, our airports. We are in such trouble that I'm going to spend a lot of time here. We're going to fix our country. Our bridges, 59% of our bridges are in trouble. Think of who ever heard of that? I mean, in trouble, serious trouble. We're going to fix our country. I'm going to spend a lot of time right here in the United States. Yes, sir.
Why do you think you take his support?
Well, I like Scott Walker. I've always liked him, and I supported him. I actually gave him quite a bit of money. I liked his fight. I liked his drive. And he actually came to my office 6 months ago, gave me a trophy, gave me a beautiful plaque. And I thought that was very nice. And in the end, I think people see, though, that what's happening in Wisconsin, I love the people of Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin well. I have friends that live there, and they're incredible people. But if you look at what's going on in Wisconsin, I think people saw that they have a $2.2 billion budget deficit. It was supposed to be a surplus of $1 billion. That's a tremendous surplus. They're borrowing to a point that nobody thought possible. They're ranked number 38 in the states, which isn't exactly a good ranking, better than others that are running, but frankly, it's not a good ranking. And they have a lot of problems, and there's a lot of division in the state, to put it mildly. And I think people, I do like Scott, but I think people have seen what's happened in the state. And he was, when I first announced, I was second, and he was first. I think I was at 10%, and he was at 22%. Now I think I'm at 22 or 24%, and he's at 6%. I think what happened is people have really looked seriously at what's going on in Wisconsin, and that has not been helpful to them, unfortunately. Yes, yes, go ahead.
Can you just tell us your retweet strategy? Do you endorse what you retweet?
Well, I do retweets, and I mean, to a certain extent, I do, yeah. I think that's right. You want me to say no? I retweet. You know, I retweet for a reason, right? Go ahead.
The evangelical vote is so important, the Christian vote during the primary.
Yeah.
In Mobile, you said, next to The Art of the Deal, the Bible is your favorite book.
That's right.
Is there anywhere in the Bible that you really relate to, that you can compare your life to, that you look up to?
Nobody that I would compare to. That is so. It's actually a great question. I love the Bible. I love the Bible. I'm a Protestant. I'm a Presbyterian. I went to Sunday school. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, the power of positive thinking, was my pastor. He was, to this day, one of the great speakers I've ever seen. You hated to leave church. You hated when the sermon was over. That's how great he was. Marble Collegiate Church. And I also had a church in Jamaica, Queens, when I grew up in Queens. And it was wonderful. First Presbyterian Church of Jamaica. And I was there for years. And that's where I went to Sunday school. And, you know, one of the things that's so incredible about the New Hampshire numbers is I lead with everybody. I lead with old, with young, as you saw it, everybody. But one of the groups I lead with substantially, evangelicals. And I've led in Iowa, too, with the evangelicals, because they get it. They're incredible people that are really smart, and they want to see our country thrive. And but the beautiful thing, because it was such a comprehensive poll in New Hampshire, and they just went over everything. Tea Party, like leading by a lot. Moderates leaving by a lot. Everybody. I think, I mean, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I led with every single group, and by substantial numbers. So I was very honored to lead with the evangelicals. I love the evangelicals. Okay. Yes. Good. Absolutely. Good. Absolutely. Good to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So here's the problem with your immigration plan. It's full of empty promises.
Okay.
You cannot deport 11 million undocumented immigrants. You cannot deny citizenship to the children in this country. You cannot build a 19...
Why do you say that?
You cannot do that.
Well, a lot of people think, no, excuse me.
You have to change the Constitution, Mr. Trump.
A lot of people, but a lot of people think that's not right, that an act of Congress can do it. Now, it's possibly going to have to be tested in courts, but a lot of people think that if you come and you're on the other side of the border, I'm not talking about Mexico, somebody on the other side of the border, a woman is getting ready to have a baby, she crosses the border for one day, has the baby, all of a sudden, for the next 80 years, hopefully longer, but for the next 80 years, we have to take care of the people. I don't think this, no, I don't think so. Excuse me, some of the greatest legal scholars, and I know some of the television scholars agree with you, but some of the great legal scholars agree that that's not true. That if you come across, excuse me, yeah, just 1 second. No, I am answering. If you come across for one day, and you have a baby, now the baby is going to be an American citizen. There are great legal scholars, the top, that say that's absolutely wrong. It's going to be tested.
Anyway,
okay?
So the question is, how are you going to build a 1,900 miles wall?
Very easy. I'm a builder. That's easy. I build buildings at a 94. Can I tell you what's more complicated? What's more complicated is building a building that's 95 stories tall. Okay? You think so, really? Well, I don't think so. A lot of people don't think so.
Almost 40% of immigrants come by plane. They simply outside their visa. So you would be
I don't believe that.
time and money.
Okay, you're right. I don't believe it. And the drugs come, I see them cry. They have pictures, they have everything crawling over the fences, which are, by the way, this high. I mean, you have fences that are not as tall as I am.
Well, they're coming by plane. So
Oh, they're coming by many different ways. But the primary way they're coming is being right through, right past our border patrols, who, by the way, are tremendous people. And they can do the job, but they're told not to.
how are you going to deport 11 million undocumented immigrants by
Here's what we're going to do. Ready? Okay.
Are you going to bring the army?
No. Let me tell you. We're going to do it in a very humane fashion. Believe me. I have a bigger heart than you do. We're going to do it in a very humane fashion. The one thing we're going to do...
Human rights violations will be all over the place.
One question, is there one question you want to ask? Because we got to move on. Because Mr. Trump has
Okay?
a question.
The one thing we're going to start with immediately are the gangs and the real bad ones. And you do agree there are some bad ones. Do you agree with that, or do you think everyone's just perfect?
The
No. I'd ask you a question. Do you agree with that? We have tremendous crime. We have tremendous problems. I can't deal with this. Listen, we have tremendous crime. We have some very bad ones, and I think you would agree with that, right? Okay, there are a lot of bad ones, real bad ones, because, they looked at some of the gangs, they looked at some of the gangs in Baltimore. They looked at some of the gangs in Chicago. They looked even in Ferguson. They got some rough, illegal immigrants in those gangs. They're getting out. Do you mind if I send them out? Now, if they come from Mexico, do you mind if I send them back to Mexico? No. Do you mind if I send them back to Mexico? Okay, those people are out. They're going to be out so fast your head will spin, all right? The rest we're going to do, remember, you used the word illegal immigrant.
No, I didn't use the word.
Okay, well, you should use it, because that's what the definition is.
No human being is illegal, Mr.
Okay, well, when they cross the border, from a legal standpoint, they're illegal immigrant when they don't have their papers. And I want to make it possible, and I think you'll like this. This is the part you're going to like. I want these people, the good people, I want them to come back, and I want them to get documentation and get this so they become legal. It's going to be, you know what it's called? Management. So you're not used to good management because you're always talking about government.
Just imagine.
Let me just tell you. Wait. Government is incompetent. Guys like Bush and some others that I won't name, they're incompetent people. They don't have it. I agree they can't do it. But I'm a great manager. I know how to manage things. I hire unbelievable people. When I look at the vets, when I look at the VA, we spend billions of dollars and people are treated horribly, horribly. That'll work great. What we're doing here will work great. And we want to get good people back in. And also, let me just tell you.
Because you're not giving the specifics. That's a problem.
I've given you specifics. Great management, and they're going to hopefully come back in very soon. Okay, another question? No, wait. Yes, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Is there any specific change in the law you would make to limit the influence of money in politics?
Money in politics? Well, I think there should be, frankly, more transparency. Because I see a guy like Jeb Bush with $114 million, which is now higher, and nobody even knows who put the money in. And they all control him like a little puppet. Okay? I know half of the people. I mean, I don't know who they are because I can't find it out, but as soon as I do, I will know most of them. They're friends of mine. I used to be there. I used to be the king at that, okay? I know the system better than anybody. The fact is that whether it's Jeb or Hillary or any of them, they're all controlled by these people. And the people that control them are the special interests, the lobbyists, and the donors. And they're controlled. You know what the nice part about me? I don't need anybody's money. I mean, if a woman sends me the $7, I take it. Because that's great, because she's investing in this country. In a proper way, not in an improper way. But I don't need money. It's a beautiful thing. So nobody's going to. So if I say that I don't want Ford building, in this case in Mexico or someplace else, in all fairness, China, I want them to build here. I'm not going to be hit by the Ford lobby and by all the other lobbies that you know who they are better than I do. They're not going to hit me because they didn't give 10 cents to my campaign because I don't want their money. So it's very important. I don't know about the limits. I think the most important thing is transparency. You have to know who you're dealing with. And right now, you don't. You don't. And I'm talking about PACs, in all fairness. I have a lot of good friends. They like to put money into PACs. Many friends, some enemies too, by the way. But I have many friends. They put money into PACs. And you need transparency. You need to know who's putting up what. So when they start making deals in a year or 2 years or 3 years, you know what's happening. Okay, how about one more question? Go ahead.
Most of the illegal immigrants in this country are either criminals.
No, not at all. I never said that. No, I think most of them are good people. I love that question because, hopefully maybe somebody. No, I think most of them are very good people. But they are here illegally. And we're a country of laws, and we're a country of borders. We have to have a border. And we'll have a border. And we'll have a wall. And the wall's going to have a big, beautiful door where people can come in legally, and also where we can bring talented people. We need that in the Silicon Valley. When somebody goes to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, the Wharton School of Finance, we send them out as soon as they graduate. They can't stay here. It's ridiculous. They want to be here. So then they go to their country, wherever it may be, whether it's Asia, Mexico, wherever it may be, and they compete against us. I don't want that. All right, how about one more then? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
You criticized the situation in Dubuque
In where?
In Wisconsin?
Yeah.
But in the latest poll numbers there, Governor Walker is leading amongst Republicans at 25% and you're at 9%. What do you make of those numbers?
In Wisconsin, I really don't know. I mean, I haven't gotten there. I would think would win. I would think would win Wisconsin. I mean, I have a great relationship with the people in Wisconsin, but I haven't started. I haven't been thinking about Wisconsin right now, and Governor Walker certainly has been. I don't know what the poll is. I know this: in Florida, they just came out with a poll, and I'm at 28, and Bush is much lower, and Senator Rubio, who's the sitting senator, is much lower. So. I don't know. I think I'll do very well in Wisconsin. I think so. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, do you think that they're going to be able to move Anthony Scaramucci away from Walker?
Well, he came up. He wants to support my campaign. But then I said, oh, gee, he said some negative things about me. Then he comes up to my office 2-3 hours later. He wants to be a part of my campaign. But, he's a hedge fund guy. And honestly, maybe the hedge fund guys won't like me too much. I know a lot about hedge funds. I also know how they're taxed, better than he does. So maybe they won't, because maybe they won't like me. You understand? But he came up. He wants to support me. He wanted to leave Walker to support me. But I didn't make it so easy for him. Okay, go ahead.
Do you think it matters how Fox News covers you?
I don't know. Look, I have a lot of respect for Roger. We'll see. I mean, maybe not. I really don't know. Look, I think they cover me terribly. Fox News, I think they cover me terribly, and I'm winning by double digits on every poll. So I don't know. Maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't. I don't think I get good treatment from Fox. They certainly cover me a lot. Well, I'm being covered by everybody.
How you're doing in the polls?
I don't know. I don't think so, because I think they give me very bad treatment. I think Fox treats me terribly. And a lot of the people that like me think they treat me terribly. But I don't think, why? Do you think I was asked nice, easy questions? The other guys are saying, what are you going to do about jobs? Another one's saying, do you love God? Another one says something else. I get these questions like, what's going on here? And yet I won in every single poll of the debate. I won. I won from Drudge. I won in Time Magazine. I won everybody thought I won the debate. But I certainly had the worst questions, the most unfair questions. And, I like Fox. I like it. But no, I think they treat me very poorly.
Can I ask you a question about the Latino?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, I'll do that, sure.
What's the strategy behind the Twitter fights? Why not?
The which?
The Twitter fights, the late night tweeting about Megyn Kelly or Lindsey Graham.
Takes 2 seconds. You do a couple of tweets. Because when people treat me unfairly, I don't let them forget. And maybe we should have more of that in this country. And maybe the country wouldn't be pushed around so much. Go ahead, Jorge.
You say that you're going to win the Latino vote.
I think so, because I'm going to bring jobs back.
But the truth is, I've seen the polls, the Univision poll says 75% of Latinos.
How much am I suing Univision for right now? No. Do you know the number? No. Tell me. Tell me. Do you know the number? And you're a part of the lawsuit. How much am I suing Univision for?
The question is, Mr. Trump.
Wait.
I'm a reporter.
It's $500 million.
I'm a reporter.
Okay, good. And they're very concerned about it, I have to tell you. I'm very good at this stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
You're losing the Latino, 75% of Latinos.
I don't think I will.
No, nationwide.
I haven't even started.
75% of Latinos have a negative opinion of you. Gallup.
Do you know how many Latinos?
Popular candidate among them also.
Okay.
And just checks social media.
Do you know how many Latinos work for me? Do you know how many Hispanics are working for me? Okay. They love me. They love me. Do you know how many Hispanics work for me? Thousands. Do you know how many have worked for me over the years? Tens of thousands.
75% have a negative opinion.
Here's what happens.
You won't win the
Once I win, you're going to see things happen. You know what they want? They want jobs. That's what they want. In Nevada, did you see the poll of the Hispanics in the state of Nevada? Did you see that? Excuse me. Big Hispanic population. I wiped everybody out. Hispanic. I won the poll. Excuse me. I'm not talking nation. I'm talking the only poll I saw. The one that came out, which was in the state of Nevada, I wiped everybody out. I wiped them out with Hispanics. You saw that, right? Did you see it? Wait, did you see it? Okay, he's an honest guy. Now I like him. Okay, you and I will talk. We'll have plenty. We're going to be talking a lot over the years. We will. Okay, thank you, everybody. I think about it myself. I like, very interesting, because a lot of people have been asking me, because in Alabama I got very high marks for speech, and I honestly feel, and it's one of the things I'm going to talk about, I'm always on live television. And if you're on live television every 3-4 days, you got to say things different. Can't be on the same and give the same stories, right? I think about my speeches, and I don't believe in teleprompters, although it's very easy. Oh, would I like to go up and stand and read a speech for half an hour and just leave? But you know what happens? You wouldn't have sold-out crowds like we have outside. You wouldn't have 30,000 people like we had in Alabama. You wouldn't have the crowd that we had the other night in New Hampshire. You just wouldn't have it. It's not the same. In fact, I jokingly say, if you're running for president, you shouldn't be allowed to use teleprompters. So I think about my speeches a lot. I think about what I'm going to say. But I essentially don't use notes, and I definitely don't read the speeches, because I think it's much easier, but you know what happens? You don't have the same vibrance. You understand?
At night when you're on Twitter writing tweets, do you write them yourself?
I do a lot of things by myself. People would be surprised. People are shocked at how smart I am, right? Okay, thank you, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Jim Shooter. You've been listening to the GOP frontrunner Donald Trump taking questions from reporters in Dubuque, Iowa. He was at his signature combative style, dismissive at times, the signature moment of this press conference very early on when he dismissed, in fact, silenced Univision anchor Jorge Ramos when he tried to engage him in a conversation about immigration. Here is that moment now.
Sit down. Sit down. Go ahead. No, you don't. You haven't been called. Go back to Univision. Go ahead.
You cannot deport 11 million.
Go ahead.
You cannot deport 11 million people. You cannot build a 1900 wall. You cannot deny citizenship to children in this
Sit down, please. You weren't called.
I'm a reporter and don't touch me, sir. Don't touch me.
Go.
You cannot touch me.
That was security removing the Univision anchor from the room. He came back later, did engage on the immigration interview. In fact, it turned into a long, almost impromptu interview on the question of the immigration plan, the wall, birthright citizenship as well. Also today, we have the news that Trump has hired Rick Perry's former top aide. Sam Klobas is now Trump's national co-chair. He spoke to introduce Donald Trump here, a sign that establishment Republicans, at least some of them, signing on to the campaign. Another signature moment here when Donald Trump was asked about his criticism on Twitter and elsewhere of the Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly. At that time, he said he would not apologize to her for those comments. He said she should be apologizing to him. Here's that moment.
I don't care about Megyn Kelly, but no, I would not apologize. She should probably apologize to me, but I just don't care.
I want to bring in now CNN political commentator Ben Ferguson, Jeffrey Lord. He is the former political director for President Ronald Reagan, as well as Republican strategist Mercedes Schlapp. Ben, if I could begin with you there, watching this moment, that interaction, really that battle there with Jorge Ramos, who is extremely popular, very well known among the Latino community here in the U.S., Univision, Spanish-speaking channel, most popular here. Dismissing him, having him kicked out by his security. He did come back in and they engaged, but it wasn't the most polite engagement. What was that moment to you?
This is exactly why people absolutely that like Donald Trump love him. Ramos came in, he was rude, he stood up in front of everyone else, he wasn't called on, and Donald Trump is not going to play games with people like that. I think Ramos was obviously wanting to push an issue here and to make this be a theatrical moment for him at Univision, and Donald Trump smelled it out and kicked him out. And the fact he let him come back in, I think, was also smart politics from Donald Trump. He's not afraid to answer questions or talk to people, but you're not going to bully him. And it plays into this bigger narrative of Trump, which is no one is going to bully me.
Bully. I mean, this is Donald Trump's signature issue here is the immigration plan. You have Jorge Ramos there who says in his question he's an immigrant himself. Why is it bullying? Why is it an unreasonable question for him to challenge the Republican frontrunner on his plan to deport 11 million people?
it's not unreasonable to ask a question, but there's a decorum at a press conference, and Ramos has been in a lot of press conferences. You don't just get to stand up and ask a question when you want to and direct things when there's someone on stage. Ramos knows this, and Donald Trump seized on that moment to make it very clear, I'm not playing your game.
I don't know. I'm a reporter. I've been to a lot of press conferences where reporters shout questions at candidates and political figures. Mercedes Schlapp, I wonder what your reaction there. Was that interaction damaging, or was it a positive for Donald Trump?
I think it was a positive for Donald Trump. I mean, Jorge Ramos knew better. I mean, he knew that if he were to step out, I mean, he planned this. He went out, started trying. It wasn't even questions that he was asking. He was just throwing out figures that you can't deport these millions of people. I mean, he is incredibly passionate about this issue. But at the end of the day, what happened here was that Donald Trump was not frazzled, and he didn't back down. And actually, I thought Jorge Ramos looked like a fool. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Spanish language media spins us around tomorrow. I'll be reading and can update you on that.
Jeffrey Lord, I want to ask you, because of course the other conflict here is between Donald Trump and the Latino population on the immigration question, but with Fox News, surprisingly, and you heard the candidate there certainly not backing down, and in fact doubling down, you might say, saying that he wants a reply, he wants an apology from Megyn Kelly. Is this good for Donald Trump to be battling with Fox News, with a conservative news channel?
Sure. You know, the problem Fox News has in this is that the conservative audience, right after that debate, thought that Megyn Kelly had been unfair to Donald Trump. I was on a radio talk show the next day in Alabama, and I asked the host, what's the audience reaction there? They were furious. And when you contrast this with things, you know, I think it was about a year ago that Fox had Hillary Clinton on for an interview, and there were no, in the views, I mean, I read a lot of the conservative comments at the time, they felt she was treated, you know, fed softballs and this sort of thing. So the contrast here, believe me, conservatives are watching. That's the Fox situation for whatever it is here, that the conservative audience is watching and taking notes, if you will, and they were pretty upset.
Jeffrey, Ben, and Mercedes, I want you to stay there. We're going to come back to you, and I also want to remind our viewers that we're waiting now, and you can see in the lower corner of your screen there a live picture from the location of the speech that Donald Trump is scheduled to give. He was scheduled at the bottom of the hour. We're going to go there any moment now. He has just spoken to reporters, and our Sarah Murray is in that Dubuque event. She was inside that room with the reporters. What was it like in the room there, particularly during those conversations with the Univision anchor, Jorge Ramos?
Well, I was standing right behind him when he was escorted out. And, you know, Jim, he did something that's not totally uncommon for reporters to do, which is to stand up and keep asking your question, even if the person who you're asking it doesn't really want to answer it. Now, in this case, Donald Trump is running the show. It's his press conference, and all of a sudden a handful of guards surrounded him and carried him out. And Jorge Ramos just kind of waited outside, and more people were asking Trump about what was going on. They eventually let him back in to have what was a pretty testy exchange over immigration. It's very clear Jorge Ramos wanted to hold Donald Trump's feet to the fire in terms of getting answers about how he would deport 11 million, calling him out about that plan not being feasible. And it was interesting to see the two of them go back and forth because, as we know, when Donald Trump is challenged, he does not take it lightly, and he was very aggressive about pushing back against Jorge Ramos and interrupting him. The two were going back and forth. So it was, you know, the kind of exchange that you would expect from Donald Trump, who does not take difficult questions from journalists very well, Jim.
Yeah, we saw that, sir, there, certainly. Sarah, just since you're in the event now where Donald Trump's about to speak, you have a lot of supporters there. I believe the campaign was saying 2,000, some 2,000 expected. What is the mood in there? What is the energy in there? What are people saying they want to hear tonight from Donald Trump?
Well, people are kind of waiting for Trump to show up. He has a tendency to be late, as he is now. But Ann Coulter was in here a minute ago. She was kind of firing up the crowd. Look, I think a lot of the folks who are here just want to be able to see Trump up close, see what he's like in person at one of these events. I was talking to a voter earlier who's undecided between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, if you could believe it. And he said he just wants to see what he has to say in the same room as him before he actually makes a decision. So Trump appears to be potentially pulling support from some corners we might not expect.
All right, Sarah Murray, she's right in there. Reminder our viewers, we will go back there when Donald Trump speaks. He's expected to come to the podium there any moment now. I want to bring back our panel, Ben Ferguson, Mercedes Schlapp, and Jeffrey Lord, just to speak again as we wait for that speech where Ann Coulter has just introduced him. And Mercedes, I wonder if I could ask you, because you've begun to see the other GOP candidates try to play back against Donald Trump at his own game to some degree. We've noticed certainly a feistier Jeb Bush, for instance, pushing back on some of the criticism on anchor babies, etc. But when you look at the polls, it's not helping those candidates yet. But Trump is still leading the way in states like South Carolina. Why is that response from the other Republicans not working?
Well, it's a long road we still have ahead of us, but I think for these candidates, it is crucial. It's a matter of survival. They need to get out there and break through the Trump media domination. I think the one thing we all know is that Trump is very effective as a communicator, and he talks in these simplistic fashion, like what he said in the news conference about, it's going to be a beautiful door we're going to build on this wall. But his messages are resonating with a lot of these grassroots conservative activists who are very concerned about the direction of the country, who are tired with the same old Washington politics, and who really believe that Donald Trump can shake things up.
But, Ben, there's really been only one candidate who's been able to articulate that message in a way that voters respond to. And you've seen Jeb Bush make some rhetorical stumbles. You've seen Scott Walker, in the span of an hour, he was back and forth on the question of birthright citizenship. Why aren't the other, and we're talking about some pretty experienced Republican candidates, governors, etc. Why can't they get the message right to respond to Trump and make some headway?
Because it's honestly the weirdest dynamic that you've ever seen in politics. You have a reality TV star that's literally gotten conservatives to hate Fox News Channel, who have said that all these others are frauds. I mean, if you look at this for what it is, I wouldn't have believed it unless I was witnessing it and watching it. And so when you're used to having this certain, I got a policy plan, I'm going to lay it out, and here's my 3 points, and then there's someone else that's just beating you up. Do you get in there with them? Do you fight back? Early on, we saw the candidates saying, I'm not going to engage Donald Trump. Now Donald Trump's on such a roll, it's for survival. And they better start fighting back, and they better start doing a better job at it. Because, look, I'll give credit where credit's due. Donald Trump is one of the best trash talkers of politics and debate that I've ever seen out there. He has that genuine X factor, and a lot of these other candidates, they've never even practiced this, much less have even thought about using it in a campaign. They thought this was going to be a traditional presidential campaign. It is far from that. And again, if you're Donald Trump and you can get conservatives to hate Fox News, you got to be a little worried about the guy at this point.
Jeff Lord, to that point, I mean, is the strategy Trump against the world? I mean, in effect, no one is off limits.
Yeah, that whole episode with Jorge Ramos is whatever else, that communicates the essence of Donald Trump. It communicates on his immigration policy. He felt the guy was out of control. He had him removed and then said, well, bring him back. And then he came back and they had an exchange, which was a fairly blunt exchange. That's fine. I think at the end he said, well, we'll have lunch at some point. You'll see a lot of me. In essence, that he brings everybody to his stage and they play on his court, if you will. Well, and these other candidates are finding themselves going in that direction.
A little bit of bravado there from Donald Trump saying we're going to be speaking a lot over the coming years to Jorge Ramos, almost saying, he can guarantee he's going to be in the White House. So Jeffrey Lord, Ben Ferguson, Mercedes Schlapp, please stay there. We're going to take a short break. I want to remind our viewers we're waiting for Donald Trump to come on stage any moment now here on that live picture you're watching there in Dubuque, Iowa. Please stay with us. We're going to be right back after this break.